Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Containers on the Couch. With me today is the one and only Nathan Peck. Nathan, for the people who are not aware who you are, can you please just introduce yourself briefly?
Hi, I'm a developer advocate for the Container Services team at AWS, focused on all things Fargate, ECS, and running containers in a serverless way on AWS.
Awesome. And my name is Silo Casing. I am also a developer advocate. I work with Nathan. We work together. Also, ECS, Fargate, the whole shebang. So we try to get as much as containers as we can in our blood every day. So it's fine, in our veins. So today we're here about our monthly roundup show from the announcements and new features which were released last month. And the way we usually do this is put them up on the screen, talk about them a bit, put the links in the show notes as well, of course, and also in the chat. We would like to welcome, of course, the viewers which are watching us here today. Please feel free to say hi, wave, whatever you would like. Send us your questions, thoughts. We will try and take them during the chat, some of them, and some of them also live. So please feel free to be part of the show. It's also for you as well. So should we start, Nathan?
Yeah, let's kick it off.
Okay. So let's go with the first one. On 10th of April, I put it this way. A lot of people are not going to know what these things are, but FIPS is kind of a enterprisey kind of regulation kind of word. What is this actually? What is FIPS? What is FIPS 140-2? What does this mean? And who cares about this?
People who are interested in cryptography. So anytime you're doing cryptography, and you don't really think about cryptography necessarily, but every time you're accessing an HTTPS website, with the padlock in your browser, that involves cryptography. Anytime you're dealing with encrypting information and decrypting it to keep it secure, you're dealing with cryptography. Cryptography requires very strong random numbers, or requires certain standards for how you generate this random data and how you do cryptography in such a way that you can actually keep it secure. You don't have people that can manipulate your computer in such a way that they produce an encrypted document or a HTTPS session that's very easy to crack into and break. So FIPS 140-2 is the standards by which you know for a fact that the cryptography they're doing in a particular application is secure. It's not going to be easy for a hacker to break in there.
Okay. And this is now available both on ECS. ECS and AWS Fargate is now supported also in the Gulf Cloud regions, which is a region which is located in the US, which is available to the federal government, I understand, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think, but prior to this, EC2 always had a FIPS mode and the ability to do this, but it was very hard to know for a fact, is my Fargate container running on this infrastructure? Do I have the security, or do I have to instead choose just run this workload on an EC2 instance to know that I have that control? Well, now all of that is surfaced directly into the Fargate micro VM as well. So you have access to the information you need to ensure that you're using the right kernel modules and have the right cryptography strength and settings inside of your task.
Cool. Very nice. A lot of our customers have probably been asking us for this for a while, I see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Moving right along, we have a blog post, which was actually an on the containers blog, so it could be that a couple of you missed this. And that's about improving the cost visibility of Amazon ECS and AWS Batch with something called AWS split allocation data. So our customers have been asking us a lot about the fact of how I can attribute cost to a specific cluster, to a specific task, to a specific service. This helps a lot, I think, with the fact of that now a lot of this information is now floated back up to the Cost Explorer and the COR. I cannot remember what it stands for. I'll find that out in a second. But anyway, it goes into the Cost Explorer, and then the information from the billing is now floated up, and you can now allocate these things correctly. Is that right?
Yeah. Looking at the blog post, there's this classic problem where you might be running a large EC2 instance and it's running multiple different containers at once. I might have 4, 5, 6, maybe in some cases I have 20 different containers running on a particular EC2 instance. I know what that EC2 instance costs per month because I'm running it 24/7. But how do I know which teams and which applications on that cluster are using more than their fair share of EC2 instance? Or how do I break it down to make sure that one team isn't launching a bunch of containers, accruing a bunch of cost, but it's not paying for itself? And so now what it can do is take all these EC2 instances, large EC2 instances, and there's a cool diagram if you scroll down on there a little bit. It shows, this one right here.
This one?
Yeah. See, look at this. You can see the CPU and memory dimensions of the task, and you can see how much resources are being reserved by a particular task on that EC2 instance, how much is being used. And then also there's the idea of unused cost as well. So it's going to break down in a really granular fashion. You'll be able to see team A is using X dollars worth of compute. Team B is using Y dollars worth of compute. And there's another unused cost as well. So there's some compute that I'm paying for, but I'm not actually using. So that gives you an idea of how much you can scale down or whether each team is being efficient in their usage of EC2 instances.
And don't worry, we've got you covered. We're going to have a specific deep dive episode on this feature and functionality. We will actually go into how you use it, what kind of information, of course, with a number of demos. So it'll be, as we say, always hands-on, doing it live. So that will happen soon. We have been trying to get it on the schedule for a while. It will be there. Don't worry. We'll let you know for sure when we're going to get this one as well. The next one we had was AWS Trusted Advisor now includes fault tolerance checks for Amazon ECS. For those of you who are not acquainted, Trusted Advisor is a service which we provide for you inside your AWS console, which gives you information about the health of your account and the number of security risks. For example, are you using root keys or keys which have not been rotated over a certain amount of time, or are your EC2 instances oversized? Now we also have a fault tolerance check for Amazon ECS, which will give us information more about, are your services configured correctly? Are you fault tolerant? And that would be how's that done actually?
So it's basically checking to see whether you're using availability zones properly. So we know for AWS, the best practice is to distribute your application across multiple availability zones, because inside the AWS data center, each availability zone has its own power supply, it has its own internet connection. And the idea is that a particular availability zone may be impacted by some event. Maybe somebody with a backhoe accidentally cuts the internet line, or a huge fire breaks out and starts burning down that part of the data center, and the fire suppression systems have to turn on, power goes out, and whatever instances are down in that availability zone. Well, another availability zone will still be up and running. So if you're running across multiple availability zones, then your application will still be up and running and customers will still be able to use your application. So that's considered best case scenario, best practice. And ECS supports that feature. It allows you to set up in your service scheduling rules to say, I'd like you to spread containers to make sure that my containers are evenly distributed across availability zones and not all sitting in one availability zone. And so the Trusted Advisor now will check and see, did you turn on that placement strategy, and do you have your ECS service actually configured to do that, or is it potentially stuffing everything into one EZ?
Yeah, so this is a good thing for our customers to know that they're at least deploying their applications in a way which is recommended based on the recommendations we give them. Awesome. Cool. The next one which came out is also another feature which was released, and that was the support for extensible ephemeral storage for Windows tasks. I know you are a developer and you are a Linux geek and you don't like Windows. Neither do I. But one of us has to talk about this now. So what is okay? Of course, we know that ECS and Fargate support both Linux operating systems and Windows to run their if you would like to run a container on either one of them, of course. Linux tasks on Linux Windows Linux hosts, and of course Windows tasks can run Windows containers on top of Windows. So I guess what we are saying over here is we're allowing our customers in Windows to expand their storage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
There was always sort of like 20 gigabytes of free space associated with a Fargate task. So you spin up a single task in AWS Fargate, and you get 20 gigabytes of disk space to play around with as needed. But in some cases, your workload might need more disk space than that. And so you can ask AWS Fargate to attach a larger volume for you to work on. The data is not persisted. It's just a temporary space. So maybe you store download there temporarily and while you do some processing work, and then throw that data away when you're done with it. Because when the Fargate task ends, all that data gets wiped out. It's gone.
Yeah.
So that there was always this sort of 20 gigabyte space to work with. But some of our customers say, I need to download a really large data set. I need to, for some reason, pull in a large chunk of data and store it locally. And so now you can get up to 200 gigabytes of data. Now, there is an extra cost associated with that. So do look in the pricing dimension and make sure that makes sense for you. There are other ways also to attach data to your Fargate task, such as mounting an EFS volume. That would be for if you want the data to persist after your task ends. So this is specific to the ephemeral storage, a storage that you only have access to while the task is running. Then when the task ends, it gets wiped out. So you generally only use it for like temp storage for a large download or something like that.
Cool. And it's now also available on Windows as well, as it was up until now also for Linux. Awesome. Nice. The next one we had on the list was, and this is going to be a very quick one, is ECS Service Connect is now available in other regions. This service was launched just at reInvent 2022, about 6 months ago, if I remember correctly. And it is now also available. We've expanded the service available also to the Middle East UAE region and the Zurich region. If you have workloads that you needed to run in one of these regions, you can now also use ECS Service Connect there as well.
I like Service Connect. So looking forward to seeing more people in these regions try it out, and let us know what your experience is.
Cool. More Windows. Okay, so this one is a blog post about using Windows authentication and GMSA on Linux containers using Amazon ECS. From my days when I was once upon a time a sysadmin and a Windows Active Directory administrator a long, long time ago. Of course, the whole thing is you have to authenticate your containers and your workloads using either NetBIOS or AD-join or whatever it may be. And with containers, it's a lot more complicated because these are things which jump up the whole time and go down the whole time. So there was a mechanism called GMSA, which I can, for the life of me, cannot remember what it is, the actual acronym is for. But
Group
it's for the authentication
service
mechanism.
Accounts, I believe. Group managed
so it's a group managed service account. In other words, there's an account you configure probably on your container, which has the permissions to register the container in a specific way that it can have access to other resources in the Active Directory and the domain and other servers. So this is a new feature, correct?
Yeah, definitely a completely new feature across EC2 and AWS Fargate, the credentials fetcher. Like we already had a credentials fetcher for sort of AWS identities. If you ever use AWS SDK inside of an ECS task, then you know that we kind of give you an IAM role. But if you're in that Microsoft Active Directory ecosystem, now it's going to be a lot easier to assign this group managed service account identity to the task. And it gets this Active Directory identity as well.
Cool. And this is for Linux. I assume for Windows it's slightly different or works the same way. I'm not sure. Do you know?
Yeah, I haven't looked into that closely, but it sounds like you can use the credentials fetcher to access Active Directory from services hosted on Linux containers.
Okay.
I assume Windows has its own
Kind of
technique
domain
for
join mechanism.
Yeah, exactly. So you would need to set that up inside your Windows container itself. But
Okay.
this is going to be
Sounds
super
cool.
useful if you're running like a .NET Core or something like that that is running inside a Linux container, and the Linux container is running on EC2 instance under Amazon ECS orchestration. Now you can also easily get an Active Directory identity for that .NET Core application as well.
Yep. Perfect. I think we have one more thing on the list of the announcements that we had for this month. It's going to be a quick episode this week. This is actually a very interesting blog post written by one of our solutions architects way down under somewhere in Australia by the name of Cameron. And ECS Anywhere is a solution that you can run your container workloads on a on-prem or hybrid environment. In other words, it's the same control plane, the same primitives, the same technology, pretty much. This is the same technology which we're using. You provide a virtual machine or a physical host on one of the supported operating systems, and you install the ECS agent or the ECS Anywhere agent on it. And that instance or that host itself is added as extra capacity to your ECS cluster. And from there, you can schedule your tasks running on your on-prem environment. This gives you the same kind of look and feel, the same kind of management environment, the same kind of tooling that you would use. If you're using in the cloud, you can continue using also as well on-prem. And there are a couple of points that you have to be aware of when using ECS Anywhere, that it doesn't support disconnected mode. So in other words, if there is a disconnect between your data center, the power goes out, somebody cuts the internet cable, or I don't know, somebody pulls out a plug, it can also your containers will not continue to communicate, and there will be a disconnect. So you have some kind of specific edge cases that you have to look into. And over here, we were looking at
specific
a workaround.
Specific to what we were saying about containers not being able to communicate, they should still be able to communicate within the data center, but
Yeah, of course.
ECS agent wouldn't be able to communicate to AWS. And so it's about that external connectivity where now ECS can't tell the ECS agent to restart your application if your application had crashed. So that could cause, let's say your application wants to restart for some reason, it would never come back up because the ECS agent running in your data center wouldn't be able to communicate to the ECS control plane and region to determine that there was a need to actually restart the application.
Correct. And here, what Cameron has provided over here in this blog post, it's actually a very good detailed read that you should go through. It's a way of kind of working around that you can run a system service on your Linux host to recognize if you have connectivity, and if so, restart the agent, if I remember correctly. That will initiate that connection once again, once there's a disconnect, back into the control plane, which is in the cloud, and allow the containers to continue to operate properly and communicate again backwards to the control plane in the cloud.
Yeah, and it's also cool because it has the ability to set a restart policy on ECS managed containers when there is a disconnect. So there's a disconnect from the regional control plane, and what the agent does is it sets a restart policy on all the containers, but it pauses the ECS agent. And so what will happen is now your machine is effectively disconnected. It's running autonomously. It's restarting the local services. If they were to crash, it would restart locally. But all this would happen independently of the Amazon ECS control plane. So you just wouldn't be able to control it from the AWS console anymore. But then as soon as the connectivity is reestablished, then it takes off that restart policy, restarts the ECS agent, and now everything hooks back up to the AWS console, and you can once again use the AWS console to stop, start, or scale your services. But basically the goal is to keep things running locally inside your data center, even in the case that your data center loses contact with the AWS region for some reason.
Nice. It's actually a very good workaround.
Yeah, it's a brilliant piece of code. I hope to see this at some point become an official part of the ECS Anywhere offering. But for now, This is the caveat. It's not an officially supported feature of Amazon ECS, but it's a very cool solution built, outside of the team to
Correct.
this challenge, and something that may benefit you if you're running, a hybrid scenario where you have some things on premise, some things in the cloud, and you want to ensure that things restart locally properly during the case of a disconnect between the two.
Nice. That, I think, was the list of things that we had for the announcements and different features and blog posts which came out. A couple of things I would like to get from news perspectives. We're kind of going into what we call the AWS Summit season, which is the AWS Summits which are happening around the world. I think this week is the one in Berlin. Next week is the one in Stockholm. I think there's one in London also sometime this month. There's another one in Tel Aviv, which is at the end of May. So if you would like, these are all events which are free of charge as part of the events which we have for our customers on a regular basis. Fully packed with technical sessions, a good opportunity to see the people who are actually, I would say, working with this technology. Speak to your peers when you're there. There are probably also going to be vendors and a number of other things on different show floors that you can see, which will also be from our partners as well. So if you have the opportunity to attend one of those summits, please do. I personally will actually be in Stockholm next week at the AWS Summit next Thursday. And also, since I'm located here in Israel, also in the Tel Aviv Summit at the end of the month. So if by any chance you're in any one of those locations, please feel free to say hello, wave, give me a slap on the back. I'm fine with that. It's no problem. And if not, please look for one of the other members of our teams. It might be at one of the other events across the world. Anything else that you would like to share with us, Nathan, based on, I don't know, news, things you want to look at?
No more announcements for now. Looking forward to seeing what more we have over the next month. As you mentioned, we're entering the summer season. Lots of work by the team in preparation for upcoming announcements. So we're always looking for feature requests from you, our listeners. If you're running containers on AWS, look for our public container roadmap on GitHub. This is where you can make a request for what you would like to see us build in the near future. And that helps us make sure that the product is better for you and better for the applications that you want to run. It gives us a way to prioritize as well some of the many feature asks that come in from our viewers and our users who are actually deploying containers on AWS. And there we have the link there. So always feel free to drop in there, open an issue or upvote an existing issue or leave a comment on an existing issue. It helps us out a lot and helps us make things better for you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And of course, if there's anything else which is not there on the roadmap or doesn't work out for you in some kind of way, please feel free to reach out to either of us through Twitter. Our handles here are here on the screen, as you can see as well. I'm more than happy to hear from you. Feedback is very, very important for us. And based on that, that's how we prioritize our features within the products as well. It was a quick one this week, actually. We have more episodes planned for sometime more out the week. We'll see Nathan as well on one of the throughout this month as well, probably me as well, once or twice more.
We'll let you know in advance. Customers that are going to come in and talk about how they use Amazon ECS and containers on AWS. So excited to talk to them and get questions from y'all and help y'all see more about containers on AWS.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody, for joining us today. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button on the Containers from the Couch YouTube channel. Hit that button for the bell to get a subscription to let you know when you're going to get a notification if there was anything new stream is coming up. And again, please reach out to us if you have any questions or any thoughts or any feedback for us. Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you very much.